Welcome back to the ZERT Coffee and Chaos podcast, a show where we talk about anything and everything pertaining to what it means to be a survivalist and a prepared individual in today's society. A little bit of a different episode today. On the show with me is a group of people, a company that I met out at SHOT Show when I was out there. So Jared from Faraday Defense, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us on. We're excited.
Man, for sure. I've talked about this before with SHOT Show. There's always a plan when I get there, and usually that plan goes sideways at some point during the day. I mean, and I think it happened with you guys, because I was supposed to come back and I wanted to do a on the floor interview with you to talk about some of your products, and then it just went sideways. And I just, obviously, when I found you guys, I was looking for your type of product, but I didn't know really where to start. And you guys were right across the booth from another company that we talk about a lot, and that's Neomag. And when I turned around and I saw you guys, I was like, oh, perfect. There he is. It's serendipitous, if you will. Sure. Obviously I wanted to talk to you guys because it fits very well into kind of what the ZERT lifestyle and the ZERT brand is all about. So thank you guys for coming on the show today.
Cool. No problem.
Yeah. And we talked for a couple of seconds before the show, but obviously I wanted to follow up. So SHOT Show was good for you guys. Was it, how many times have you been out there? I mean, is this your first, second, third year? What do you got?
So this was our third year at SHOT Show.
Okay.
And we're continually expanding the booth,
nice.
The number of products that we're bringing, and kind of making it the show where we do product launches, kind of showcase where we're going as a company, etc. So it's a very exciting show for us, and we love attending.
Awesome. So then I guess let's start with the brand. So Faraday Defense, how long have you guys been around? Give me a little bit of background, elevator pitch, just
sure.
Where are you guys located, and lay it all out there.
Sure. So we're located in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So right smack dab between Detroit and Chicago. And the company was started in 2014. The foundation of the company was protecting from electromagnetic pulse, and that was done primarily with bags at the time. And that has since expanded into a number of different bag products, tent enclosures, hardwall room enclosures, with a really wide variety of customers. So we're doing a lot with just general retail, customers who are interested in electromagnetic pulse, and then customers who are also interested in privacy, anti-tracking, et cetera. And then we get into the whole government, military, forensics, you name it. So there's a very wide range of customers that we're working with.
Okay, so multifaceted. You offer a lot of different products. Been around since, you said, 2014.
Correct.
Located in Michigan. So I guess in total, how many different products do you guys offer? I mean, and I think, when we were talking about the show, everything from a key fob Faraday bag up to full units.
Yeah. So we'll start, I would say our smallest bag or product would be a key fob bag. Okay. And then that would move all the way up to a 30 foot by 30 foot by 30 foot enclosure, where you could do testing of, automobiles or what, you name it. So there's a very wide variety of products in the Faraday world, but it all comes down to blocking signals, and it could be EMP, CME, and then, the whole RF world with cell phones, 5G, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, you name it.
Got it. Okay. So then I guess let's start with some of the basic questions here for the folks that are not in the know. And before we go into that, folks, obviously, these shows come out every Thursday. We put them out on all of the streaming podcast channels. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then it gets picked up, I believe, by Google and all of the others that are out there. This is also in video format. So if you guys are interested in watching this, you can always catch it on our YouTube channel, which is just on the ZERT YouTube channel. And then you'll find the ZERT Coffee and Chaos episodes listed in the videos. And obviously, I don't know if you guys brought anything, but if you did bring any products and you want to show it off there, we can do that, and then we can link anything down in the comment section on YouTube. So for I guess for the novice here, when it comes to blocking signals, where do you recommend somebody to start? Are we start like, what's a Faraday bag for those that are not in the know?
Sure. So a Faraday bag is essentially the concept of blocking a signal. And so there's tons of different signals. There's, X-ray, gamma ray, you name it. But we're primarily focused in the RF frequencies, which you could say is, 1 gigahertz up to 40 gigahertz. So that frequency field. And then the EMP and CME frequency fields, which would be around 100 megahertz to 1 gigahertz. So that's our primary focus as far as being able to block those signals from a component that's inside the bag or cage. And you don't want in some cases, you don't want signal getting out and transmitting. And in most cases, you don't want signal coming in and transmitting to a device, etc.
So like for tracking. So,
Yep.
Okay. So you just mentioned cage. So is a Faraday bag and a Faraday cage, they're related, right? They live in the same world. They're just two different things, right? They're referred to and are two different pieces of equipment.
You could say they're the same piece of equipment. A Faraday bag is a Faraday cage, essentially, just in a bag form. And so, again, that's primarily done using metallized materials. So whenever for example, if you walked into a steel pole barn, your cell signal is probably going to drop, or you might not be able to receive a call, or it's spotty at best. So that's providing a Faraday effect in a sense, where it's blocking that signal.
Okay. So because we have ZERT members in the past, and we probably still have some now that make a homemade Faraday cage. That's very well. Is it easy to do? Is it very common?
It depends on the application. So if you're looking to block from or protect from the effect of EMP, it's relatively, I would say it's more simple to do because the tolerances don't have to be as tight. And that's due to the signal strength, or the frequency field is not as powerful. And it's just for a short duration. It's not, over a long period of time. It's a very quick pulse, very powerful. But because of that, it's easier to block that signal or isolate from that signal. And so you could use a combination of like aluminum, copper, nickel, etc. There's different metals that you could use, but.
Okay. Now, so talking EMP, obviously, everyone's seen a movie out there where there's a van that pulls up. I think it was Ocean's 11, one of the first ones, where, there's a big EMP explosive bomb, whatever, in the back, and they light that thing off, and boom, it kills everything electric around. And we talk about that all the time as, being prepared for something like that, because of, we live in a digital world, unfortunately, and the easiest way to cripple infrastructure, our country, everything, is just to shut off the power, right? I mean, what, it was last week, AT&T had outages, and the world went crazy. Like oh my God, I can't check my news feed on social media. Like they were on Facebook complaining that they couldn't contact anybody because their cell phone went down. So there's always a fear of being attacked that way. And when you talk about an EMP, it's easier to build I guess a homemade remedy. Is that what you see happening a lot? People doing stuff like that? I mean, so a Faraday cage and an EMP protection are not the same thing, correct?
So you're using the Faraday concept to protect from an EMP. So you are using a Faraday cage, just let's say a different style of Faraday cage than you would to block a cell phone signal, Wi-Fi signal, etc. for a forensic purpose.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that it's clear. So if someone were to purchase a Faraday bag for their laptop,
Mhm.
and an EMP were to take place, would that laptop be protected from that EMP?
Yes, as long as that particular bag is providing around 50 dB of attenuation, which means that it's essentially dropping the noise of that frequency as it hits the bag. So if you had a bag that had, it was made out of chicken wire, chicken
Yep.
fence wire, um, you're going to provide some isolation, but not enough to protect that actual item from the effect of EMP.
Got
You
it.
would need to have a metallized fabric that's completely isolating it, but maybe not as built up as something that's trying to block a RF signal like a cell phone signal.
Got it. Okay.
Um,
Makes sense. All right. So so then what's the next step up? So let's like you just said, the Faraday bag does some of it, but is there I guess a step up from that Faraday bag into something that is more? So obviously I can't put my vehicle in a bag, right? And
Correct.
I want to, and my vehicle, unfortunately, or with all vehicles these days, is there's a lot of electronics that run vehicles. I don't think there's anything analog unless you go back to carburetor days, and I think that's about it. But everything has some kind of computer in it.
Mhm.
And if I want to make sure that my vehicle is still running, albeit, as long as there's, I mean, gas pumps, I'm sure there's some kind of electric in that. So you're not
Sure.
getting analog gas pumps, but I want to maintain my vehicle's operation during that. So obviously I can't do a bag. So what is that next step up to make sure that a person is prepared for an EMP?
Sure. So essentially, what you would want to do is, because you have that pulse, that transient energy coupling into the vehicle, now you have a high amount of energy, that's racing around. And so you want to suppress that energy as quickly as possible. So I do have some products here that I can show you.
Perfect. All right.
So
And
this
and
is a,
folks, and just so we'll link all of this stuff. I'm sure that all of this is available, so we'll
yep,
link all of this down below in the section of YouTube. So if you are listening to this on Spotify and you're interested on what we're talking about here, head over to the YouTube channel and you'll be able to see these links. So all right,
sure.
go ahead, Jared.
Yeah. So this is a transient reducing auxiliary plug, or TRAP, is what we
Okay.
call it. And
Trap.
essentially what this does is you'll connect it to the positive and negative terminal on the battery.
Okay.
And so there's a diode in here that, when you have that transient energy couple into the vehicle, this has a less than 1 picosecond turn on time. And so you're very quickly suppressing that energy to a level where it's not going to short or damage the vehicle. And so we'll do, a combination of this product, which is the T.R.A.P, which goes on the battery.
Yep.
The T.R.A.P, this goes in the 12-volt auxiliary plug or cigarette lighter plug. And then we'll put these high saturation ferrites on the battery leads. And so essentially what you're doing is trying to create sponge points throughout the vehicle that react very quickly. And so when you have that quick pulse, it's a high amount of energy, but because
Okay.
it's only for a short duration of time, and because you're suppressing it very quickly, it doesn't amount to much
Got it.
energy coupling in. So picture it like a dam lets go, and all of a sudden you got this water, racing down, and
Sure.
the quicker you can create a sponge point for that water, you're soaking it up, and it's not gaining steam, going downstream. And
Got
so
it.
that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. And so so let me back this up a second. Is there a common misconception with how an EMP works and affects a vehicle or electronics in general?
Um, Not necessarily. I would say, newer vehicles are very susceptible to EMP.
Okay.
If you're going to, if you have a vehicle that's pre 80s,
Yep.
most likely it's going to be fine. Again, it is going to depend on how close you are to an actual EMP. So let's say you live in, the middle of the US and an EMP happens in New York, you're still going to feel frequency. You're still going to have frequency coupling into vehicles, you name it, but not at the same level as someone who's, let's say, in Michigan or in New York, where you're exposed to a high amount of frequency coming into or coupling into these vehicles. So it depends where you're located, where the EMP happens, and again, this is not a surefire way of protecting the vehicle, because let's say you had so much water coming into that vehicle, you're going to need a lot of different sponge points throughout that vehicle. So this is providing a solution to try and minimize the damage, or if you're not close to in a near vicinity of where the EMP is, you would give your vehicle a fighting chance.
Got it. Okay. So does the range of an EMP depend on the size of how it's delivered?
Yep, it would depend on altitude, how large the EMP, the warhead essentially is. There's a lot of variables that come into play. So, we would never know in advance, hey, this thing's going to impact the entire country, or it's just going to impact, one state, or it's going to impact, a third of the country. You would never know that,
Right.
obviously. So,
Okay. All right. So when you say altitude, obviously this is something that would be carried by some kind of aerial apparatus.
mm-hmm.
I mean, is there research on how small they can get these things? I mean, that's so, and where I'm going with that is, there's weather balloons that
Mm-hmm.
have been out there, right? And whether you're thinking that there's nothing, or they're probing us, there's balloons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's smaller than that. There's drones.
Yep.
I mean, are these deliverable via a drone?
They could be, but again, you're not talking about a massive warhead at that point. So it's
Right.
most likely that would be a more localized effect. Just like there's directional energy weapons where you could essentially go into an urban area with a vehicle and have an EMP effect within a certain radius.
Right.
There's stuff like that happening, especially as a battlefield moves more to drone usage. They can try and eliminate those drones simply by using more of a directional electromagnetic pulse. So there's research ongoing on how to harden these drones so that they're not impacted by that type of technology.
Got it. Okay. So while people may want to protect their vehicle, house, whatever, from an EMP being used against them,
Mm-hmm.
is there the reverse for that? I mean, are there people that are, like you just said, emitting some kind of EMP pulse? So there are things that are not, so drones, again, like if you want to fly a drone over Billy's house, and Billy wants to make sure that you're not flying drones over his house, he can emit. So is there the reverse?
I'm sure there is, not anything that I'm privy to.
Got it. Okay.
But
Good to know.
I'm sure there's technology out there.
Right. Probably is.
Yep.
But awesome. So I guess my next question is then, so the T.R.A.P device that you just showed us, plus all of those things put in a vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
how do you guys test those once you manufacture them?
Sure. So it's a hard concept to test because it's difficult to send off an EMP and test a vehicle. We are
Right.
looking into it. Actually, at SHOT Show, we met a connection where they'll actually put off an EMP, small one,
Okay.
and you'll have a vehicle running, and we can equip it with all of our items, etc. But for right now, what we've done is we work with a NASA scientist, Dr. Arthur Bradley,
Okay.
who's done all the research and development on these products. And he's done it through calculating the amount of energy that would couple into the vehicle, the amount of time, and how to actually suppress that. So I wouldn't say we've tested in a real world scenario because it's very difficult, next to impossible to do.
Right.
We want to do it. We're hoping
Of
to do
course.
it soon. But for right now, a lot of it is theory. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
yep.
Hey, listen, the first guy that decided to make bulletproof glass and wanted to test that, there was there that's a scary test process as it is.
Sure.
This one, is and just I mean, I've seen guys out there that test bulletproof glass by sitting in the vehicle. I mean, I just saw it on social media where the guy was sitting in the vehicle with a camera and they were shooting at the glass. And I mean, you got to really, really trust that product to test something out like that. Now,
100%.
same thing here, I mean, I don't want to put all of this stuff in my vehicle and then test that because there's no coming back from it once
Exactly.
your vehicle is hit with an EMP and I guess fried, for the lack of better terms. So when it comes to testing other items that you guys offer, it's much easier, right? So like a Faraday bag and for your laptop, for your phone and stuff like that, that's easily able to be tested, correct?
Yeah. So with a bag, essentially what you'll do is you'll test the base material that you're using in the bag. So the base metal material.
Yeah.
And we would set that up in a room, and you're going to throw some frequency at it. So you have a signal generator, you're generating a frequency at it, and it could be, at 1 gigahertz, 2.4, 5 gigahertz. We'll run through a different whole range. And then you'll have a spectrum analyzer that's hooked up to an antenna behind it, and you're measuring that signal going out and then how much you're reducing it. And that's giving you a value as far as how much you're reducing that frequency field with the material. And so there's different materials that will provide, a certain amount of blocking versus others. And you also get into the amount of layers you're using. So a lot of our higher end bags that are blocking cell phone, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi are going to have 3 layers versus for EMP, you typically only need 1 layer. So there's some variables there. Okay.
So a Faraday bag for a cell phone. Okay. I mean, cell phones have evolved, right? But you can unsend a message if it's, if it's on iMessage or whatnot. You can edit things now. So it is what it is. But, there was a time when you weren't able to do that. And, you go and send something and it may have the wrong information and you're like, oh crap, you've got seconds to make sure that this thing doesn't get to that recipient. And I remember a friend of mine saying they need to make some kind of sleeve where you basically throw your phone in and seal it up, and all of a sudden, boom, it shuts off. It stops that communication from going out. Is that essentially what would happen if you slipped your phone into one of these Faraday bags in the middle of whatever, a text message sending, you can't get it back, you don't need that information, whether it's financial information, whatever the case may be, goes out, throw it in there, seal it up, and it stops? Is that?
You could do that in theory, because essentially what you're doing is preventing that phone from communicating with the network, which is going to send the message. So as long as you did it quick enough, the thing that I don't know is, if that message is sitting on the device waiting to send, and as soon as it sees a network, once you pull it out of the bag, if it's just going to send it anyway.
Great. So, and that's a follow-up question. Once you remove your device from these things, it's now open to everything that it was being protected from before putting it in, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is a temporary kind of solution. And so what do you see people using these for? Like the Faraday bags?
Sure. So during COVID, there was a lot of talk about tracking, where phones were connecting through Bluetooth and talking to each other as far as like if you wanted to have an exposure notification.
Right.
pop up. So there was a lot of people who, didn't want their phones communicating with other phones while they're,
Right.
going
Yep.
going through the public spaces. And so they would put the phone into a Faraday bag, so they have the phone with them in case of emergency, or they get to their destination, they want to use their device.
Yeah.
But from point A to point B, they want to keep that data secure, don't want it transmitting, etc. So
Huh.
that's one application as far as a privacy standpoint.
Okay. I like that. Now, one of the other things that people have, I guess, dealt with in the past, and so your phone being cloned or hacked. Does
Mhm.
this protect from that?
Yeah, it's the only way to really protect from that, because you could turn your phone off or you could put it on airplane mode.
Yep.
But your phone is not truly off. The screen is off, but it's still hitting towers, and it's still seeing, Wi-Fi routers, etc.
Right.
So if your phone is in airplane mode, you can still connect to Wi-Fi. So someone could still technically, access the device through Bluetooth or a Wi-Fi network. Same
Okay.
thing, if it's off, they could still access it through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. So the only way to completely cut that device from any signal or network is to place it in a Faraday bag.
Okay.
There's just no physical way for a signal to hit that device or for that device to transmit a signal out.
Got it. Okay. So is there but then obviously your phone is not able to be used. So no one's going to
Correct.
reach out to you. You can't be contacted in case of an emergency. So there's that. So now I guess give everybody the explanation or the difference between, like RFID protection versus or is it the same?
Same concept. So RFID is not transmitted at such a powerful frequency, so it's a lot easier to block that frequency.
Right.
So you could have just a single layer of metal, or you could have a scrambler antenna, and if someone tries to clone that data using RFID frequency, it's pretty easy to eliminate that
Okay.
transmission.
Okay. So I guess my next question is, do you guys make a solution for that for phones? And I know we keep coming back to talking about phones, but I feel like, everybody carries these little pocket computers,
Mhm.
daily, right? And
Yep.
so there's got to be a way to ensure that your information isn't getting stolen and it's not getting compromised and then used, whether it's, bank information or personal information or anything. But,
Mhm.
and I'm just going to follow me here for a second. Everyone used to carry leather wallets, and in those wallets you carried credit cards, and and then, oh no, now they make wallets with RFID protection because people were stealing credit card information
Mhm.
from those wallets without actually stealing your credit card.
Mhm.
Now with the evolution of digital wallets and digital currency, you've got all of your credit cards now stored on your little pocket computer that can be hacked.
Mhm.
So, but you need that device to communicate. So I guess, what is the 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 linking point there between having your phone and being able to use it, but also being protected? So, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to use my phone, but I also don't want anybody to steal the information on it.
Sure.
Is there, and I can't just throw it in a bag. And I guess
Yep.
I think I see on the table there. Is that an example of what a Faraday bag is?
Yeah. So this is a Faraday. This is a NX3 bag.
Okay.
So this is the most basic bag that would actually block a cell phone signal.
Okay.
Um, and then we would, go to something that's a little heavier duty, which is a jacket with a canvas exterior.
Okay.
Essentially the same bag, same
Right.
application. But getting back to your question, so with a physical card, that's transmitting the data through RFID. Now, when you get to a phone, it's transmitting it through a different frequency with like a card reader, etc. So that you could not use just an RFID, blocker essentially to protect the phone because you're dealing with different frequency types.
Got
So
it.
the only getting back to the phone, the only way to truly protect it is with the bag.
Okay.
So you could, have the phone in the bag when you get to, if you want to make a payment with the phone, you would take it out of the bag, make the payment, slip it back in the bag.
Got it.
It's the technology is evolving to where, we're looking at different ways to make it easier to work with the bag. So whether that's done through a magnetic opening versus a Velcro opening, stuff like that. So we're constantly doing R&D into.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm sure the products have evolved over the last decade. So, and I'm sure they will continue. But I assume that you guys have to do research and development based on what's being used to create the problem. So, like we just said, we're talking size of the warhead, and now you're talking the ability to deliver these things via drone or smaller. So I'm sure there's probably evolution of products as the delivery system evolves, so to speak, right? So
yeah, for example, like on the vehicles, I didn't show this one, but this is our newest product. It's the DEFCON vehicle.
okay.
So this is similar to the T.R.A.Ps that I was talking about earlier, but it has a lot more capacity. So it has the trade-off is that it has a little bit slower turn on time. It's less than a nanosecond, which doesn't seem like a big difference, but in the sense of EMP, it is.
Okay.
So what we're doing is combining that with the T.R.A.P products. So you have that quick turn on time. You're suppressing that energy really quickly. But then this is giving you all of the capacity, as I think 270,000 amps of capacity to act like a really big sponge in the case that you are in the near vicinity of an EMP and you need to eliminate that transient energy.
Got it. So going back to distance and time, New York City, EMP goes off. We're located here in Connecticut. You're in Michigan. EMP gets detonated over New York City. The time from detonation to everything electronic going off is, so you just brought up a nanosecond. So it's instantaneous.
Seconds. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess it would depend on the size of the warhead, but what's the, and again, you have no way to know. So it's not like somebody in New York can be like, oh, we just got hit, prepare yourself. So there's nothing. The only thing there's nothing.
Correct.
But what is the time frame to experience the blast, if you will, or the outcome in Connecticut, in Michigan? I mean, and we'll, it's a warhead that has to come from a plane. So it's a larger size EMP.
Yep.
How long do you have?
Well, there's three stages of an EMP. So the E1 and E2 stage is the pulsated energy. So that's, it's detonated. Now you all of a sudden have that energy racing to Earth. That's seconds. And then you have what we call the E3 stage, which would probably be more of the dangerous stage. And it's the E1 energy, E2 energy that's coupled into the power grid, where now you have thousands of miles of conductors. And now you have all this frequency building up steam and running into buildings, running into homes, offices, etc.
Wow.
So you have the pulsated energy and you have the conducted energy. And so the E1, E2 is seconds. The E3 is probably, if you're in Connecticut, maybe a minute, 2 minutes. Hard to guesstimate, but it's quick, very quick.
And you would really, you wouldn't know anything. Like, and what I mean by that is you would be driving down the road and all of a sudden your vehicle would just die.
Yes. Yep.
You'd go to pick up your cell phone, you got nothing but a black screen.
Exactly.
Your Apple Watch, black screen,
Yep.
nothing.
Correct.
Wow, that
Yep.
is crazy. And in minutes from a and that's a fairly sizable warhead
Yeah,
that would
I
have to
mean,
be used.
it would have to be a sizable warhead, but something that our adversaries are very much capable of.
Got it.
hmm
Got it.
So we are working on products where it would give you some sort of alert, or it would be able to detect the pulsated energy, throw off an alarm, so hey, something's going on. If you weren't in your vehicle, or you were sitting in your house. So we have a DEFCON Alert. This is essentially monitoring the ambient air and then also the conducted energy that's coming into the home. And so if there was an EMP, you have that frequency that would hit this device. It's going to sound off a really short alarm, letting you know, hey, something's up. And then as the energy starts to rise in the home, as it goes over 150 volts, this will sound a long alarm, letting you know, hey, energy levels are rising. I got to do something about this. You don't have a lot of time, but the best way to protect the home is to disconnect it from the grid entirely. And that's going to give you a chance to power up your home using a generator, etc.
Okay. When you say, I guess, elaborate on that. When you say disconnect from the grid,
with your breaker, you're going to flip the breaker.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
So you get the alert from the DEFCON unit there. You beeline it to the breaker, and you power off immediately. And that will protect, or that will preserve everything electronic in the house for the time being.
That would preserve it from the E3.
From the E3,
which is the more dangerous of all three stages.
It's kind of like the virus. That's the
sure.
Right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I mean, best way to look at it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your television, or your anything that's got small circuitry might be impacted by that pulsated energy, the E1 stage.
Okay.
The home overall probably would not be, but it's that E3 stage that's coming in that's going to be dangerous, very dangerous to the home.
Got it. And so like a laptop, right? Whether you're plugged in, even if you pull you still have battery powered. So you would still probably get that E1, E2 effect, but that it is what it is. I mean, at that point, right?
As long as you had the laptop in a Faraday bag,
right? Okay.
It's not going to be impacted by E1. It's not going to be impacted by E3 because it's not connected to the grid. So if you were able to protect your home and then fire up a generator and get power going into the home, you would then be able to pull that laptop out, power it up, and you would have, your data. You probably wouldn't be able to connect to an internet network that would be down, but you could have maps stored, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. And that, that's part of obviously this whole entire thing that we talk about here at ZERT is, having gear is great. Being able to navigate from your phone or whatnot is awesome, but being able to pull out a map, a topographical map of your area, and understanding how to use a compass is more important than gear, because something like an EMP can take a lot of your gear away. And you have to be able to figure out what to do after that. So I guess one of the next questions that I have is, who do you see buying this stuff? Is it companies? Is it corporations worrying about protecting? You talk government, I'm sure there's government stuff in there, but the everyday person that reaches out to Faraday Defense to say, hey, I want to better protect myself and my home and my family, what do you see? They're just like, okay, they go one step and they get something for the house, they get the sleeve for their laptop, they do their vehicle. What do you guys see?
Sure. So we deal with a lot of everyday folks who are genuinely concerned about this, and so what I see is a lot of individuals will start very basic. Maybe start with some bags and kind of work up from there. And everyone has a different plan, I guess, if something were to happen like this. So,
Right.
Their focus might be on a vehicle. They might live an hour away from home and they want their vehicle to work if something happens to get back to home base. So
Right.
that would be their first, focus is the vehicle. Others might be, have a lot of data stored on a laptop. So that's something to start with there. Or others would want to use their home as their home base if something were to happen. And so they want to protect that asset. So there's different plans. There's different ways you can attack, protecting items. So that, I would say it's a wide variety.
Now, and just to go back to what you just said about laptop and everything being stored on it, if a laptop gets hit with an EMP, there is no restoring that. There is no recovering it, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
There's nothing. You can't pull the hard drive. You can't recover that data. It's gone.
Most likely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's something to be kind of very aware about. When we talk about this preparedness lifestyle, this survivalism piece of ZERT, we always talk about a plan, and having that plan before you need it is the most important thing. I see a lot of great things that you guys offer that people need to consider. Everyone is sitting here thinking, okay, something's going to happen and I'm going to be able to check my news feed on social media to see what's happened. And then when it happens, I can just immediately call my person and say, okay, stay where you are. I'm coming to get you, hop in their vehicle, and then drive on the freeway, go to the gas station, gas up, get some beef jerky, and then go continue to get their person, go back to their house, and then they'll be fine. If you take away all of the pieces in between there, what you've got is no information. All you know is that you've got no information. So your network is down, your grid is down. All of a sudden you go to social media, nothing is happening. You go to your phone, zero. Okay. Now your next part of that plan was to contact your person and say, I'm coming to get you. Can't do that. So the plan has to be, okay, person, if you are not able to contact me for more than 6 hours and you've got no access to information, that you need to wait another 4 hours for me to get to you. If I don't get to you in 4 hours, you need to get back to home. Okay. Then you go get in your car and you can't. All right. Now we know that it's likely an EMP has happened. Right. And at that point, trying to put your phone in a Faraday bag is not the answer, So, these are items that are important to being a prepared individual and a survivalist in today's day and age. Like you said, our adversaries, whether they're probing us with air balloons or not, an EMP over the financial district in New York City is probably a very crippling attack, destroying our way of life with communications being attacked is probably what we're going to see. Whether it's because that movie that just came out, Leave the World Behind. I don't know if you saw it or not, but
I have not.
Highly recommend the movie.
Okay.
We actually did a 2-part show on the movie because it was very good. It was very entertaining. And basically, communicate all the things that I just mentioned kind of happen. So I guess, another thought that I just had is with the evolution of vehicles moving further away from analog to digital, straight digital, electric vehicles, what does that look like in your space?
We don't have a full solution for a fully electric vehicle. You would really have to plan that one out because the grid would be wiped out, so you wouldn't be able to plug into your wall
Right.
charger and charge
Right.
up the vehicle. So if you had enough solar generation and that wasn't wiped out, you had it properly protected through an EMP event. You could technically
Okay.
make that work. And there would be an argument that it would be a more sustainable vehicle type than regular combustion engine because it's going to be hard to get fuel. Obviously, you'd have to have fuel stored up to be able to
Right.
operate your vehicle.
Yeah.
So there's arguments in both directions.
Yeah. So you just mentioned something about solar. Is there a solution to it? Does solar power? So if I just watched a video about a house out in Utah somewhere, I think, that is completely off the grid, uses solar power to generate all the the energy for the house.
Mhm.
How does that play? How does solar play into this whole situation?
Sure. So if you're not connected to the grid, you're not susceptible to E3. You're just susceptible to E1, E2. And
Okay.
again, you're dealing with a really quick pulse in a short period of time. So there's ways to suppress that energy by using like a similar ferrite. We would use a different type of ferrite, but a ferrite on the main cabling in your solar system, and then protecting like the inverter,
Okay.
charge controllers, etc. So
Oh,
there is
that's
ways to do it and ways to protect it.
all right. That's perfect. That sounds like a great a great solution for folks that really want to unplug from the network, get their energy independent with and use solar.
Mhm.
So that's pretty awesome. Um, so Jared, one of the things that you and I talked about kind of when we were putting this all together is I told you that ZERT has a global network of members, and one of the things that is part of their membership is getting access to some of the cool brands that we meet and talk with over time.
Mhm.
And I'm definitely glad that we've been able to learn about Faraday Defense, and B, learn about some of the maybe unknowns or maybe misconceptions about some of this stuff. I'm very, very happy that I got the time to talk to you and look at some of these products here. And I think it's important that the members are able to do some research
Mhm.
and figure out what's next. Because, like I said, ZERT started off and it was very firearm focused back in the day, and we've evolved to much, much more intricate pieces to being prepared and survivalists, and that involves firearm training, medical training, and survival training,
Mhm.
and having the access to the right gear and knowledge for each one of those. Obviously, this Faraday stuff, protection against Faraday EMPs and RFIDs, it falls under that survival piece. So I'm glad that we can get you guys connected with our ZERT members out there.
Cool. Yeah, we really appreciate it. There, we do have some resources online as well.
Okay.
If people want to learn, more about what is EMP, how does it affect different
Yeah.
aspects of life. So we have a YouTube channel called EMP Doctor,
Okay.
and
Great.
Dr. Arthur Bradley, who I mentioned earlier,
Yep.
he does a lot of very interesting videos on how the product works, dives into the science behind them, and explains, the dangers of EMP, CME,
Oh,
et
that's
cetera.
great.
So,
So folks, what we'll do is obviously we will link their YouTube channel in the description on our YouTube channel as well. So make sure you head over there if you are interested in learning more, I guess, about the science of EMP and some. He goes into some theories on how all of this stuff works as well.
Well, he would go more into the science behind the products, like the
The
trap
products, got
the
it.
trap products, and then
Okay, great.
how they could apply into like a solar system or a home, etc. So
Great, great. So make sure you head over there and you hit the like button and the bell on their YouTube channel so you can get notified. Are you guys putting out a lot of content, or is it just stuff that's based on the products that you sell?
we're starting to put more focus on education, because one big missing thing in the EMP world is education.
Right.
And so the channel is moving more in that direction of education, and educating individuals what to look out for, what is affected, what's not, what's myth, what's true, etc. So
Got it. I think it would be pretty cool, and we can talk about this afterwards. I'd love to do. I'd love to test a couple of your products just with having a kind of a 2-camera setup, right? So the one camera over here and the other, like my phone being the other camera, and then slipping it in the bag and watching it, because right, it would shut off, right? You wouldn't be able to take obviously or maybe it was recording audio. Obviously, you're not going to have a.
Yep.
You're not gonna be able to use the camera if it's in a bag, but there'd be some pretty cool stuff for that. So, Jared, where do the ZERT members go to find out more about your products and purchasing your products?
Sure. So our website is shop.faradaydefense.com.
Okay.
And we'll have a discount code for your members, which is going to be ZERT10. So it's ZERT10. And that's a 10% discount off the
Awesome.
the order.
Awesome. So that's great, guys. So basically we just got a new affiliate for the ZERT Nation. Obviously, y'all know that membership has its benefits. I think that was probably coined by Amex, but we'll use it here today. When you get a membership to ZERT, it's connecting with like I said, a global community of like-minded individuals, and then you get access to some of that cool information, that cool gear out there. And this is no different today. So Faraday Defense, you can go to shop.faradaydefense, or you could just go to faradaydefense.com, which is your website, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then there you can read about all of the products, and then they do have a link to their shop. You can purchase stuff direct from there, and then you can use that ZERT coupon code and get 10% off. So I really appreciate that, guys. And thank you from me and the rest of the ZERT members out there.
For sure. Thank you.
Awesome. So as we wrap this thing up, do you have any final thoughts or questions or anything else you want to put out there?
Nope. I think we scratched the surface.
We did.
There's a lot of information on our website and on the YouTube channel. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in researching to go to those two resources.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for jumping on the show. And guys, as always, thank you for spending some time listening or watching this. I would like to know in the comments a couple of things today. One, do you listen to the podcast or do you watch the podcast? Two, what did you find most interesting about some of the stuff that Jared laid out today as knowledge? So put that in the comments. And as always, you guys stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you again soon. ZP002 out.